Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Cybersecurity Recruiter podcast. Today, I'm joined by Josh Hohbein. How you doing, my friend?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Yeah, all good. Thank you, mate. Yeah, nice to hear you've had a busy June. I hope it's not been too stressful, mate.
No, lots of fun work travel. Got to see, I went from kind of coast to mountain to ocean shore. So got to see everything there is to see, but I'm glad to be back in a rhythm of somewhat normalcy.
Yeah, good. Traveling around's good, but it's hard to stay productive when you're moving around and you're setting up kind of mobile workstations or getting your laptop out and various things. It's never quite as productive, but probably slightly more fun. So one for the other, hey?
Exactly. A lot of work off a phone, just Teams Outlook, seeing what I can do here.
Yeah, cool. All right, Josh, I'm just going to do you a bit of an intro, my friend, for the listeners that don't know. You started off back in the day as a call center manager, progressed a long way since those days, my friend, and then moved on over into a system administrator role for Armour Interactive. Then we're in a management position, looks like in a restaurant, which I'm presuming was good for your communication skills. Then progressed into a cloud solutions architect engineer role, which you were there for 3 years at Connecting Point. And then you've moved on to an information security lead at centrexIT. You've been in that position for over 2.5 years. Yeah, welcome to the show, mate.
Glad to be here. That's pretty accurate. Yeah, I know the restaurant management position usually gets brought up, but it was invaluable. And actually, in June, we were talking about my travel. That was actually one of the talks I did. I went to a conference and gave a talk about how the restaurant world really lends itself to the managed service provider, MSP, and the cybersecurity world. In my current role now, I get to use all of the skills that I've gained throughout the year, and I'm using more of my restaurant management skills than I am my tech skills on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think people that are good in that restaurant environment as well, they make, like, you guys that are good at it make it look easy. In the UK, obviously, everyone's heard of Brexit, and there was like after that, the service levels went downhill because there was no freedom of movement in Europe. So you'd go into a restaurant in London, like a really nice restaurant in London, and the service would just be terrible. And it wasn't until that moment I was like, these guys and girls that can do this properly and communicate and know what to do, it's a bit of an art form. I didn't really appreciate it until I got some bad service.
Yeah, it is, man. When you get everything firing on all cylinders, it's like a work of art. Everyone's on top of things.
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't surprise me to hear what you say. That has given you the foundation for the kind of advisory, consultative, dealing with end clients, presenting findings. That's helped a lot, did it?
Oh, 100%. So throughout the talk, this is probably relevant to you, is the staffing issues that we have as far as like cyber roles or even tech roles. And the whole idea is, hey, I can teach anybody what buttons to push on a keyboard. Now, don't get me wrong. You need to have some sort of troubleshooting mindset and being able to think logically. But we're a service provider industry, especially in cybersecurity. We have to have good communication skills. And those are a lot harder to teach. But when you get people who are from the service industry, who are great in the service industry, they have those soft skills. And a lot of what you do on a day-to-day basis is a one-to-one on what you do in the cyber world. You just change out the vocabulary, and you can take those people, teach them what buttons to push on a keyboard, and put them in the right role, and they can flourish. One of my favorite slides that I have as I go over it is, if you've worked the rush hour of a restaurant, you can work incident response. It's chaos. There's things everywhere, but you have to be able to prioritize, think on your feet, be able to be organized, be able to communicate effectively, follow your procedures or your recipes and things like that. And when it's all said and done, you're doing the cleanup. You're, hey, what went well? What can we change differently next time? Doing a recap. And really, that's a kappa. It's the same thing. Really, you're just changing out the vocabulary. So again, being able to communicate that, dealing with stressful environments. One of the things too, if you've been in cyber long enough and you've worked incidents, is they're not fun. They suck. And there's emotions involved with them. There was one that I was working where it was a particularly nasty email compromise. And the client that I was working on, getting her restored access back to her mailbox, she just broke down and started crying. And she's, I'm so sorry this happened, that I caused all of this work for everybody. And I feel terrible. And not a lick of technical training taught me how to deal with that. But if we go back to the restaurant, I had a server crying in my office every week over something. So I was like, all right, got this.
Yeah, cool. It's fascinating, Joe. We get all kinds of people listening to the pod. I get some of my clients, which are founders and CEOs and head ofs and directors and team leads. And then we get people breaking in and stuff like that. And people that have never worked in an MSSP environment probably don't appreciate how intense some of these environments can be and how organized you need to be. Project management skills need to be strong. Like you say, you need to know when to maybe be a bit firm, when not to be. be, when to be nice, when to be soft, ultimately how to communicate. And it's just, you're right. I think it's becoming more and more important. When I'm getting briefs off clients, stuff like public speaking is actually being mentioned in the brief as a hard requirement, not even a nice to have. So it's like these types of things are just going up and up in terms of importance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Again, it just comes those soft skills. They're extremely important. So, it's where you can borrow from an industry where those are required and taught and everything. And then it's just, hey, we'll change your vocabulary around and teach you the next steps on it.
Yeah, I can remember this one final interview. I'm going back a few years now, and I'm in this client Slack group, and him and his co-founder were interviewing this chap, and he's great communicator. He knew he could do the job, and he shouldn't have done this, but he messaged me on Slack while he was in the interview going, this was like a few minutes in, I can almost guarantee you we'll be making this chap an offer. And it was purely off the back of presentation, being communicative, and that's a prime example of it counts for a lot.
Absolutely, it does. That's how I've made a career. I have another good story, and it's in my talk too, but it really shows the example of it. Is before I was the cloud solutions architect, I got hired onto that MSP as a network engineer and met my buddy Jeremy, is his name. He works there, and Jeremy is one of those guys. He's those techs that's super brilliant. Like, you give him anything, he'll figure it out. But with that, though, the soft skills are a little bit lacking in knowing how to deal with the client, right? And you need those sort of people, but you typically hide them in the back a little bit. But his specialty is wireless internet, Wi-Fi, knows everything there is to know about it. And I tried getting on his level. Like, I studied, I have my CWNA, the Certified Wireless Network Administrator. If you have trouble sleeping, I highly recommend that book. It is a great book to fall asleep to. I did many times. But even with that, like, the more I learned about it, dude, Wi-Fi is just black magic. It's crazy. But he understood it all. He had a rather large project where he was replacing access points for a bigger school in a smaller town. And it didn't go too well. Things weren't working right. And he was troubleshooting it and couldn't figure it out. So we went to the tech coordinator one day and started basically saying, hey, it's your equipment. There's nothing with these are brand new APs. They should be working right. Like, it's your equipment. And if you've ever worked in the school system or with tech coordinators, there's two types. There's the people who are a teacher and then just given this extra job and they have no idea what they're doing, or the people who actually do know what they're doing. And luckily enough, they're also a teacher. And he was the latter. Like, his stuff was solid. He knew his stuff in and out. So he really didn't appreciate his stuff being blamed. And then to make matters worse, Jeremy had a crew scheduled. So he's, peace, I'm out. Sorry. I get a call Friday from my boss basically saying, hey, you're going to drive 8 hours to this school and fix their wireless. And I was like, what? And this is the first I had heard of it. He's like, yeah, Jeremy can't figure it out. He's gone. So we need you to go do that. And I was like, you realize, like, Jeremy knows way more about this than me. Like, I have no idea what he's doing. He's like, yeah, he'll figure it out. I'm like, cool. As I'm driving there, I'm like trying to figure this out. And what I had realized is part of what I did in the restaurant world, going back to that as well. I was part of the new store opening team. And what I would do is not just open the stores, but I would get sent to other stores in our franchise. And, hey, they're not meeting their metrics or they need some help. So I'd come in and basically help them run more efficiently or just be more effective. So I was like, this is really the same sort of thing. I'm not going to go in there and, hey, I got this and change everything day one. It's let's listen, let's be empathetic, let's see what's going on, and then let's work together because we have the common goal. And that was what I did. The first thing I told him is, hey, Jeremy's worked on way bigger network issues than me. I'm not on his level, but I'm here to help, and we can work together and we'll utilize our resources and solve the problem. So to make a long story short, it was like 3 weeks of troubleshooting. The vendor actually had to send somebody out in week 2. And it was a weird firmware issue with a new chipset in these newer access points that they had never seen. So it was really cool being able to see, like, their actual engineers who wrote the code were remoted into my laptop and were troubleshooting and this really cool stuff. And they wrote custom firmware to update and fix the issue.
Oh, wow.
But that part's cool. And obviously no one would have been able to solve that except for the vendor. But the moral of the story, though, is like those soft skills and those service skills is what allowed us to even get to that point before the tech coordinator kicked us out of the door and said, I'm tired of you guys. And the night before I left, he actually took me out for supper. And that's how I discovered the best Italian food in all of America is in this small town, Spencer, Iowa. It's 7,000 people. But Sammy's there. If you ever find yourself in the middle of nowhere, Sammy's best Italian in America. So going back to it, like, it wasn't my tech skills. It was all of my soft skills and service skills that was able to make that happen.
And I think what you did there, Josh, that was really clever is you almost disarmed them from the start. So you mentioned that the other chap that was there before you knew a lot more, but you're going to try your best. I think that probably just took the pressure down a notch or two, and they were like, this guy's kind of being real with us. So they were just real back with you, and it obviously worked, mate. So yeah, no, kudos to you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great story, and it's fun. Jeremy also laughs at it too, because if he would have given me an extra week.
Yeah, no, it's good. Josh, what would you say if I'm listening now? I could be at any level. I could be running my own business. I could be at director level. I could be trying to break in. But if I'm listening and I'm thinking, look, I agree with what you're saying, but look, I've never worked in a restaurant. I never will. I'm massively hands-on keyboard. Perhaps I'm trying to get promoted up to a head of or a director position, or perhaps I just want to communicate better in my own business to improve my internal culture in my organization. What other things would you say to refine and enhance those communication skills? Is there anything you can think of that could help folks that are in that spot?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, like in-person events or networking events, or even if they are like online, find your community and go to the hangouts. Some of them have happy hours and just kind of get to know people and talk. But if you want to refine like your fine speaking skills, I mean, you could do, this right here, start your own podcast, shout into the void. Maybe you have 1-2 listeners, and the first week or so is like nobody's listening, and that's great. You don't want them to listen right away because it's going to be rough. But eventually you just get used to talking and formulating thoughts and organizing them, and you're just able to monologue and flow very effectively. So just putting yourself out there and just doing something, right? Some of the chamber events, there's plenty of different groups that'll meet up. Actually, I have one later today. There's just a small group of a cyber meetup of local people who are in cyber, 10 people. And we take a discussion topic and go around the room and discuss on that. We have a different presenter every week, right? So if you're in that group, now you have an opportunity to present to a smaller group. So just do something that's putting yourself out there, that is doing some sort of public speaking. Again, even if it's just going live on LinkedIn or a podcast that gets 2 listeners, right? But it emerges yourself as, some people can find it, thought leadership, but really it just serves your own purpose of improving those skills because you're practicing them. And if you only ever do it in an interview, if you only ever do it when it's crunch time, like you're not ever practicing it, you're not ever refining it. You think about people who play sports, right? On the court or on the football field or the pitch, right? That's just like their job. But leading up to that is all of the practice you don't see behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's true. I've heard people say that about musicians as well. You go and watch a rock concert or a music event and they absolutely smash it. It's because they've done it again and again. And it's so true. And I think as well, like these things are good fun as well. Like I think the things that start off nerve-wracking, I know we were talking about your recent talk you did. I know from doing LinkedIn Lives and the podcast, not so much these days, but in the early days, like really nervous. But then afterwards, I used to get such a buzz. It genuinely feels really good. And I think sometimes when you've not done something for a while, like I can relate it to when I've not done a podcast for a while, I start getting really nervous about doing a podcast. If you've probably been hands on keyboard for a while and not been doing any client facing stuff for a long time, I can imagine that kind of wanting to put it off probably seems like more and more of a better option in your head, even if it's not. So like you say, you've just got to push yourself and get out to these conferences and meet up. I've got a theory, Josh, with like AI and everything coming in. Like I think we're going to get to the stage where it's just all going to be like relationships, meeting up, actually network who you know, because some of these AI phone calls I've heard, I think I sent you a video on LinkedIn. I was talking to someone else about this, and they were like, "Look, I had to get you on the phone, mate, because I genuinely thought you'd done that with AI." It's because you can't even ping people with videos anymore because they just think that AI. We're going to have to literally go, like, actually start shaking each other's hands and actually know each other. I think all that is going to basically just amplify the need to be one hell of a communicator.
Oh, I completely agree. As more of the process becomes automation and more of the AI and the technology hits the forefront, the need for trust is going to rise. It's, hey, who are we letting into our organization? Sure, there's this AI SaaS app that does this, that does that. Do you know where your data is going? Do you know what they have access to? And if you build that trusted relationship and you're providing that technology, that's going to be a huge differentiator versus just the faceless AI that's coming down the road.
Do you think we'll have to have something on? We're going a little bit off tangent here, Josh, but we'll do it anyway. But do you think we're going to have something on our videos that basically just shows it's not a deep fake?
Yeah. One of the conferences I was at in February, there was a company that was doing that and tied into your video calls. And there was a red, a yellow, or a green light. And it basically used AI to detect AI, of course, but it was detecting things like speech pattern, natural movements, your hand gestures, tracked all of that. And it basically was like, if it's red light, okay, there's a high probability this is a deep fake. Don't tell any of your company secrets or do anything with that. And if it was a yellow or a green, and then, hey, you could proceed with that. But again, it goes off of, you almost need a human MFA code, right? Where it's, hey, Thomas, this is really, what's your code word, or some sort of code phrase that you say before you get into it that wouldn't be able to duplicate.
Yeah, what were we talking about at DEF CON? Come on. When we were at the bar, we were on our third beer. What did I say to you on the Saturday?
Yeah, I don't know that.
Neither would we, probably. Yeah, cool. Josh, on your talk, I know you've mentioned a few bits. You've talked about that there's a slide where you're comparing AI to like rush hour in restaurants and stuff like that. And it'd be nice to point people towards your talk. I know there's mention of it on your LinkedIn profile. It popped up on my feed, so I saw it on there. But is there anything else in the talk that would help the listeners that you can think of now that you could share with us?
Yeah, definitely. So the first couple slides goes over like just the service and what makes it a differentiator, right? Is the same thing when it comes to restaurants. I give the example, and we've all eaten at a restaurant. You gave an example of a bad experience you've had, right? But how many of us go to a restaurant and we sit down and the waiter or waitress just comes over, they take our orders, they get our drinks, they deliver the food, and hey, here's your check, have a great day. They do the bare minimum, and really what makes that special? You're just eating food, and you could go anywhere and get that sort of thing. That's just the bare minimum, that's table stakes. And especially in the MSP industry, that if all you're doing is just, hey, fixing tickets and a little bit of patching, like all of that's table stakes. But what separates that, going back to the restaurant, is you get somebody who, a waitress comes down and gives a little personal flair, maybe asks you, hey, how's your day going? Or what brings you in? Or just guides you through the menu as, hey, we're going to give you a personalized, tailored experience. Hey, if you like this, I recommend this side, or hey, you should try it with this sauce, etc. I love it this way. Or it really just goes that little bit extra steps. And it doesn't take a lot, just a little bit extra. And then what you're doing is you can't get that same experience somewhere else, right? So I worked in a place called Buffalo Wild Wings. It's a big corporate chain. And the only thing special about that place is a couple of their sauces. They're really good. But realistically, how many places can you go to get wings and beer and watch sports? I mean, thousands. But if you have that server who just really goes above and beyond and might join in on you cheering or rooting against your team, or giving you a little bit of that extra kind of experience with all the different sauces and things you can do at the menu, now you can't get that anywhere else. So let's bring it back to the cyber world or the tech world, the MSP world. You guys are going a little bit above and beyond with providing a service when actually being a partner, thinking proactively, or taking the extra steps on the soft skills and building that relationship. Well, now you're not just fixing computers. You're not just fixing tickets. You're a critical part of that business and somebody that business enjoys working with. And that's what separates you. Additionally, from soft skills, let's talk about cybersecurity specifically. The first compliance program that I ever wrote was in the restaurant. It was my health inspector. We had our health inspector audit, and because we're corporate, we had a corporate audit. So what we had to do is, hey, these are the controls that they're measuring on. We need various things, and this needs to be temped, it needs to be clean, needs to be put away, this needs to go here. There's very specific things that health inspector or corporate is looking at. The way you cut things has to be a certain way. So you have all of your controls mapped to an Excel sheet, which we eventually put into an app. And now we're going through and we're submitting evidence that we're doing this daily or 3 times a day. So that way, when the health inspector audit came or the corporate audit came, it was like, we have the evidence, we're doing this, we can perform it. Now, again, from the cyber world, you go to CIS or NIST or whatever, you have a map of your controls of what you need to do. So you're going to build out a plan and practice that follows those controls. You're going to submit evidence for it. And if you ever get audited on it, it's cool. This is what we do on a daily basis. So it's not anything different. And it sounds weird, but if you break it down to the brass tacks, it is the same thing. You are just changing vocabulary.
Yeah, no, thanks, Josh. And going back to the little touches and stuff, I think the compound effect of that over time is huge. I can relate it back to dealing with clients in the recruitment world. It's if you go above and beyond, you get some searches that are like really urgent, and when you're quick on the response rate and you're sending overviews of what's going on to keep the client organized in a polite and nice way and stuff like that, and like you're really intense and on it, that results in referrals, that results in repeat business, that results in enhanced reputation. And you fast forward 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, it makes a big difference. So it helps. It's win-win all around. And I know what you mean, mate. It's these little tiny things. They count for
They
a lot.
do.
And I think really do.
Especially in the MSP world, if you ask like bigger MSPs or larger MSPs that have had organic growth and not private equity or buying or being purchased, what is their growth strategy? How do they get new clients? And the answer is referrals, overwhelmingly. And yes, there is some sort of marketing dollars that are spent on social media and other things, but the vast majority of the way they get new clients is referrals. And guess what? You don't get referrals just by simply fixing tickets, right? There's referrals is that extra service because you're the trusted service or technology provider. So again, those little things lead to the referrals, which lead to more businesses, which lead to growth, which just compounds, right? And it all starts with asking someone about their dog or something ridiculous like that. It's just this big snowball.
Yeah, it does. And I just think as well, not just I think in security, people underestimate the value of that. And I think in a lot of industries they do, but I think certain people listening will underestimate the value of that. What I can relate it to, going back to the restaurant, is when a waiter doesn't put something down with care and they just not throw it down. That would be an exaggeration, but they don't put it down with any care. And it sounds like such a little thing, but it makes a difference. Like, I really feel that when someone doesn't put my food down. I sound like I'm being a right diva here, but it does make a difference.
Like your example, going back to the communication, if you're working an incident or something it doesn't have to be a security incident. If something isn't going right or there's downtime, having that effective communication. Hey, even no update is an update, but you're letting the client know that, hey, you care about them. You're doing what you can. You're providing what you can. Now, you go back to the restaurant. If their food's taking long in the kitchen, if you don't talk to that table, they're going to be upset. But if you say, hey, we're really sorry, kitchen's behind. It should be out in a couple minutes. Hey, is there anything I can get you, right? I can get you some chips. I have access to those. I know you guys are hungry. Let me get you guys something in the meantime to tide you over. But if you continually update them, the food's still stuck in the kitchen. The downtime is still happening. There's still an incident, but at least the table or the client feels like they're taken care of.
Yeah, you're right. The situation's not changed at all, but it's just been handled better. What you're saying there, Josh, is when things are going wrong or things aren't quite going to plan, could be no fault of your own. That's not the time to shy away from communication. In fact, that's the time to lean in and probably, maybe, if anything, over communicate. And some people listening might not even realize that, but if things are going bad and you hide away and hope they come good, I think that kind of silent treatment, that's where it can go drastically wrong.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. You have to have those hard conversations. That's part of what the job entails. And you thinking about it too, trying to reach more your listeners. If you're not in the MSP space, if you're more of an internal cyber role, it still 100% applies. If you have some sort of new initiative or new cyber thing you're rolling out, you don't want to be the department of no, right? You just want to like, hey, we can't do this because of security, or security is just those guys sitting over there and they don't understand the rest of the business. They just want to say no and block us from doing stuff. But if you build those relationships and you really, truly want to work with the rest of your departments or other departments, and when it comes time to roll these things out, you have that rapport and they're much more understanding of, hey, this person isn't just telling me no. It's, hey, Josh wants to work with me. He knows that I have business to do and he wants me to be able to do my job, but we also want to be safe. So again, building those relationships, that rapport, that communication between departments, it's the same whether you're internal or you're an MSP managing all your clients.
Yeah, no, cool. Thanks, Josh. Josh, so you're in the restaurant, you're looking after the franchises, you're helping out the franchises that are underperforming, flying around, and you're like, I want to go into tech, I want to go into security. How did that go down? Hey, you've taken a uniform off, you've walked out.
Yeah, so I've either been in tech or a restaurant my entire life. Before the call center, I was in restaurants. I did a couple odds and ends jobs. So I've always liked technology, but I think what really I enjoy more is just helping people and connecting people, and taking my passion for technology and being able to help people and combining those two is my preferred role. When it came to the restaurant, as much as I loved what I did, man, the work-life balance sucked, to put it lightly. And you're opening a restaurant, you're working 90 to 100-hour weeks. That's not an exaggeration. You are sun up to past sundown. When the store opens, when you're the general manager, you're the one, if I'm not at work, I'm on my phone answering calls and helping make decisions and things like that. And oddly enough, to get into that tangent, what made it better is proper documentation, right? Of making a binder of SOPs or playbooks or knowledge base articles on, if this happens, do this. And then when I got a call, it was, hey, did you check the binder? Oh, I didn't. Okay, check the binder and then call me. Or teaching the managers how to think critically. Okay, you've done the binder, but now there's still the issue. Cool, let's walk through it instead of giving you the answer. And then eventually stopped not all of the calls, because, what really brought it is like when people would call me, they wouldn't say, hey, how much lettuce do I put on chicken wrap? Because we had a recipe for that. We had documentation for that. So I was like, I need to bring that documentation to the manager side. And hey, going back to cyber and MSP, guess what? Like documentation's important. But the calls didn't eventually like altogether stop. They drastically reduced, but it was still 50, 60 hours a week, always on my phone, all of that. So I was like, I need to get something with a little bit more of a regular schedule, but also where I'm still able to help people. So that's where I got back into the MSP world. And then cyber specifically was more or less just as I progressed through the career and did more like cloud stuff with Azure, AWS, the target audience that particular MSP was working with was mostly smaller organizations like mom and pop shops, or maybe like 50 people or less. They had a handful of organizations that were larger, but those are the ones that I did Azure for. But I was like, not all of our clients need like cloud solutions. Like you get rid of the Exchange server, you get rid of Active Directory, move them to Entra. You might do a file server to a SharePoint, but no one's really building stuff in Azure. What is something that everyone needs? Really, it's cybersecurity and protection. And again, it really just allowed me to help people with the use of technology and was something new and exciting to learn. And now, again, that's really what I do every day now, is being able to protect our clients and educate them on best practices. A lot of what I educate on, and obviously dealing with cyber, doing a lot of the behind the scenes, the vuln management, the GRC, the compliance. But my favorite part of the job is when I get to go face to face, meet with the clients and let them know how to protect themselves in their personal life and how that connects their personal to their business, and seeing those eye-opening, being able to answer the questions on, hey, could you talk to my grandma and tell her about these scams and things like that. I really enjoy connecting and helping people. And again, with cybersecurity, I'm able to do that in a way where I get to play with the technology and I get to make a way bigger difference than building something in Azure. It gives me a sense of, hey, like I affected that person greatly with cybersecurity.
Yeah, it's so true, Joshua, because I had the same thought process for security as well. Like wherever the technology's going, and we're seeing it with AI now, like security just has to follow. I know OWASP are doing some really cool stuff on LLMs and various different things on AI. And it's like wherever the tech goes, you're right, security just has to follow. And I would argue this, the importance of security is probably just going to go up and up. I think we're probably seeing that at the minute, but it's, like it's not going anywhere, mate.
Exactly. Think about like job security. Security's not going anywhere, and I'll follow Phil's. People need to eat. So
yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see, but this ties in with the communication piece again, but I'm probably seeing like more well-rounded individuals probably having a better time at the minute. Like communicate, one of those things, if people can do some compliance stuff and, like you just said, vulnerability management stuff, maybe some pen testing, can also present finding. I think those well-rounded individuals, with the way it's going, probably coming into the golden era over the next 5-10 years. I think it's going to be good for them.
yeah, I agree. And I think as well as having more of the hands-on foundational work, because I'm not against the 4-year degrees or the schooling or anything like that. But even when you're doing stuff like try hack me or hack the box, those are all great learning exercises, but they take place in a very perfect environment where it's not messy and you're not having to figure things out or break things. So having the actual hands-on experience with, how Active Directory, how networking works, how your IT fundamentals basically does give you a huge leg up as well. One of the things that we do for risk assessments or risk posture assessments for clients is it's not a full-on pen test, but also it's not just, hey, here's your vulnerability scan with everything, because that really doesn't tell you the picture. I'm not a red teamer who is able to reverse engineer things like that. And I could social engineer like the best of them, but I'm not a pen tester. But what I'm doing is like actually working with the client, aligning them to a framework. So asking them questions about their business process, how they do things, but then taking a look at configurations. And hey, based off the way that this is configured, this is a big risk to you. So I'm not a hacker, but this is how they're able to get in and utilize. And again, being able to talk to the business needs of that. So do you think, like you said, the culmination of great communication and presenting skills, and then having the well-rounded IT foundational skills and being able to translate and talk business, like those are probably the 3 major key points that I'd recommend anyone trying to get into the cyber field?
Yeah, definitely. And I think having all those things as well, and I know we talked about speaking and conferences, and you mentioned a podcast earlier. If you're doing any of those things, I think that they can be essentially part of your resume. A LinkedIn profile is very much, I call it a 3D resume these days. If anyone's got a YouTube channel, if anyone's a speaking engagement like you have recently, that it really is part of the resume. Definitely throw it all in there, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, so you came up through the sysadmin side, Josh, so that gave you that foundational that you're talking about.
Oh yeah, having to work the help desk tickets and figure out or get introduced to organizations that, hey, everything's broken, we don't know what's going on, and being able to just band-aid fix things or piece things together and just really understanding how the tech works. And again, especially from the cybersecurity side, is how can you protect something if you don't really understand the core components of how it works? Or on the flip side, you're going to be way better at hacking something if you know how it works and how you're able to manipulate it.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, I've never worked this out, but I'm thinking it teaches you to use your initiative as well. Because like I say, you're getting things thrown at you. You've got to learn on the fly. You can't just keep asking everyone. You've just got to work it out.
Yeah, that's just it. You have to know how to utilize your resources and think critically. And hey, I can't fix this right now. What can I do as a band-aid? What can I do as a workaround in order to make sure people can still do their jobs? And then let's fix it later. There's two types of fixes. There's the temp fix, which there's nothing more permanent than a temp fix. But eventually the bell's going to ring and you're going to have to do a much better fix on that. But yeah, again, building the networks, building the servers, being able to mess up in an environment, especially on the cybersecurity side. When I do get asked, hey, should I do hack the box? Try hack me. My first thing is, do you have like business experience working tickets? Like I'd recommend starting at a help desk, or at the very least, if you want to do your home lab, don't get me wrong, doing the SOC stuff is fun. Building your own SIM server through or Elk or something like that and looking for those alerts, that's cool. What I'd rather see is build yourself an Active Directory or go get a Microsoft license and build your tenant and play around with there and learn how it works. Because especially the incidences that I've worked, it's all been identity. So if somebody's identity gets compromised, how do you traverse Active Directory, or how do you compromise the Microsoft tenant and move laterally, and how that phishing and stuff works? So it's really more on the foundational IT skills than it is the super cool hoodie up, like anti-hacker. Like that stuff is really cool. Don't get me wrong, but like that is a small percentage of what the cyber role actually is. And a lot of what we do isn't very sexy at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you hear people learning about pen testing and popping shells, and you think the reality of actually popping a shell in a working environment is probably pretty minimal.
Yeah, it's those phishing emails and the social engineering and tricking you and putting your password in.
Yeah. Cool. Just when it comes to progression and learning, and my question used to be kind of, what book have you read that's had the biggest impact on your career? It could be like making you the best version of yourself, or it could be a security career. But what content are you consuming? What books have you read helped you that could help other people, mate?
There is a course on Udemy, and I might get this wrong here, but it was about, I can try to look for it, but it was about emotional intelligence. So EQ versus IQ. So really that kind of, again, how to connect to people and how to perform you're more of your soft skills. And then I would say a little bit more on the business management side of things. So like ITIL processes. Most recent self-help book that I read, it was the How to Give a TED Talk, how to be better at public speaking. And that was invaluable. And if you're familiar with the TED Talk performance, I believe their talks are 17 minutes, if I remember right. It's a weird number, but they're very short and consumable, right? And it's super easy to like, hey, you have an hour to present on this. Cool. But if you're like, hey, shorten that to 17 minutes, that's way harder to get your point and stuff across. So it's really how to condense and make your presentation and how to be able to speak publicly and entertain the audience without being bored. Again, even if you're not giving a TED Talk, even if you're not giving a presentation at a conference, you're still doing the PowerPoint slides for your clients, whether it's the C-suite, whether it's risk assessments for your clients, whether it's just some sort of QBR, quarterly business review, you're still giving a presentation, and you want to be able to do that the best you can.
Yeah, definitely, mate. And that point you made on basically concise communication, like I think that is just absolutely huge. And you'll know it yourself, Josh, from dealing with senior folks, but like the further you got the chain, and I've said this before, but people just want you to get to the point. I've got certain clients and they are just in a nice way, but they just want people to get to the point. And I like screen candidates for that client. And I'm like, this just won't work from a cultural perspective because the client is just like, doo, 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 and this person's just talking. So I think the more you can master that concise communication, and it is hard. Sometimes it is harder to write less words in an email than it is to write more, and probably takes longer as well. But
Yep. So the book is TED Talks, the official TED Guide to Public Speaking by Chris Anderson, the head of TED. So, but yeah, it tells you how to connect to the audience, like knowing your audience, how to speak to them a little bit differently, especially for me, knowing our different clients. If my POC or point of contact at the client is very technical, our conversation is going to be very different from the POC who is like the CEO or the C-suite who just is business and just wants things to work. How I deliver the slides are the exact same. How I deliver it is completely different.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, Udemy, EQ versus IQ, and then the TED Talk one. We'll get them in the show notes as well, Josh. We'll put them in so people can find them. But yeah, cool, mate. Yeah, it's been nice, my friend. Do you think we've about nailed it? The time's whizzed by. It's gone quick.
It has. It's awesome conversing with you.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It'll be a nice one for people to really listen and say refine and enhance those communication skills. It will be good. And yeah, nice to see you, my friend. It's been nice chatting. It's been good, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure.